And the recording is now in progress. So, Matt, you're going to be speaking today, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm letting the rest of the people in, and you go ahead and take it away, buddy.
All right. Thank you so much, Marshall, and hello, everyone. Today's March 19th, 2025. This is the Wednesday CalPads Q A, and my name is Matt Clark. I'm a data governance administrator at CSIS supporting CalPads, and I'll be hosting the session today. Driving documentation for us is Gary Gerwer. Just a quick note that we're working with a limited crew at the Q&A today. We will not have Sean or Dominic from the CDE, and Paul Higgins is out from CSIS. This being the case, we may request that you submit a service desk ticket if your question requires expertise that isn't on the call today. If in terms of announcements, I do have two for you guys today. First, the final deadline for the Fall 2 submissions in CalPads is this Friday, March 21st, 2025, and there are no planned extensions. Fall 2 does not require SELPA approval, and March 21st is the date by which LEA approval and thus certification is required for Fall 2. A letter was sent out to superintendents yesterday for LEAs with remaining fatal errors in Fall 2, and any LEA that is uncertified in the Fall 2 submission after Friday will become eligible for 1 year of differentiated assistance through the CalPads pathway. Second announcement here, the CDE regional update meetings for March will take place next Tuesday and Wednesday. That's March 25th and 26th. And the regional sessions will be virtual. The focus of the March sessions will be the end of year data collections. There will be 4 total sessions occurring throughout March 25th and 26th, and the session that you register for should be based on your region. And region information is included above the registration information on the CDE CalPads regional meetings page. Um, Before I move from the regionals, just a quick note that if you do require sign language interpreter services, please register for the Wednesday morning 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. session. And that was it for my announcements. Angela, any announcements to share today?
A few things. So, Gary, if you could navigate to the active and fixed known issues. We did not have a deployment yesterday. We usually have those on Tuesdays, but because it is a deadline week, we don't typically do a deployment. Although, as promised on this call last week, we did patch 3 items, all revolving around that 3.8 report. So our next release is scheduled for next Tuesday. And for those of you that joined late, we are a skeleton crew today. We don't have anybody from the SPED office or anybody from the CalPads operations office. So it's just CSIS service desk today. So,
And Angela, this is Paula. I'm on.
Paula, hey,
In case you
okay.
need me. Okay.
Thank
What
you.
a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, it's been a long time since you've joined us.
Angela, I'm here as well. It's Diana.
Oh, hi, Diana. Do you want to introduce yourself? I don't think these folks know you.
Sure. Let me go on camera. Let's see if it works. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Diana Casanova. I am the administrator manager over the CalPads operation office. I am in week 4, so feeling very new here, but happy to take back any questions to the team and get answers for you.
Glad to have you both here. Thank you so much. So Diana replaced Marianne Bjorkman. Some of you may remember her on these calls. And I believe that was all I had for announcements today.
All right. Paula, Diana, any announcements from the CDE?
Nope, not right now.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into the questions. So the first question we have is from Amber at 301 Q1. I've had a couple of CCEs this year, and the other school, an online school, won't drop the student until they hear from the parent and the parent is not responding. I have the students enrolled for at least 2 weeks before I reach out to them. I know that LEAs should update the SENR at least once every 2 weeks, but is there any procedure or expectation that a student is exited if another district informs them of an enrollment?
They should fall off of your concurrent enrollment anomaly list after the 2 weeks have elapsed. So if you have the more recent enrollment, they should not be showing up on your concurrent enrollment list. They'll still remain on the prior LEA's list because it's kind of the burden is on them to exit those students out.
All right. Thank you, Angela, and thank you, Amber, for the question. The next question is from Kareem at 302 Q1. Would alternate to suspension, ATS teachers be considered itinerant teachers. Our ATS teachers have a room the student goes to when they're put on ATS, but we don't roster the students to that section. I wasn't able to find much useful information on how ATS teachers should be reported.
So the two things I would think about is the credit recovery for the suspended students, whether it's attendance or to make up work, wouldn't be they wouldn't be enrolled on a master schedule. It'd probably be a rotating group of students every period or every Saturday or whenever it is. So if you're reporting this course, you're not going to want to submit the student course section enrollment record. So you would have to use itinerant not to submit that roster of students. The second thing, when you think of itinerant, it's either most often push in or pull out. In this situation, I would liken it to pushing in. This teacher is sitting in the classroom with this group of students providing instruction or supervision. I think the main thing here is you don't want to report the student course section enrollment for this class, and you're reporting this staff member using, I guess, a 9237 course. So I think itinerant's really your only option here.
Right. If you would want to report them, you would have to report them as an itinerant teacher so that you're not required to report student course sections to them. All right. Thank you so much, Nate. And thank you, Kareem, for the question. Next Q1 from Karen at 302. If a speech language pathologist, non-classroom based, was employed from the beginning of the year, but was on leave for the first day of school, including on census day, and later reassigned effective October 26th, without returning from leave, how should their FTE be reported? Should the code be 6018, employee on leave in this situation?
Actually, I think that was resigned, not reassigned.
Oh,
Right?
reassign.
Resign. So I think they left. So if they were there on census day, right? The employee on leave would be fine, but if they using the employee on leave, you do have to put an FTE of something more. You can't use 0 anymore for employee on leave. What you put for them, I guess, I don't know.
It would all be determined if they were the teacher of record. If they're not the teacher of record, I would say delete the staff assignment and close out the staff demographic prior to census day. I think if you look at Flash 294, there's a table, and number 2 identifies do not report the teacher on leave in CalPads if they're not the teacher of record. And so that's I think what you need to determine. If they're not the teacher of record, do not report them. Since they're already in CalPads with the staff demographic, you have to populate the employment end date and delete the staff assignment. If they are the teacher of record, it's pretty straightforward. It's what Gary said. You're going to report them on leave, and you're going to report the course section that the teacher of record for.
Actually, Nate, she says this one had a non-classroom based assignment. So they could do the 6018 employee on leave along with the non-classroom based assignment.
Yep.
And the FTE?
Whatever it would be.
It can't be 0.
Yeah. If it's 100, it's 100. If it's 80%, it's 80%.
That might be a local decision.
Right. Thank you, Gary and Nate. And thank you, Karen, for the question. Next, we have a Q1 from Terry at 304. We have 5th-year seniors with an end date of July 26, 2024, and met graduation requirements before August 15th, 2024. We're getting an SENR 718E3 error, or DD for EOY3. What do you suggest to clear this error?
They need to submit a status record for those students.
Is it exempt, Kyron, or do they do?
It depends on if it's just a 1-day enrollment for those students. So if it's a 5th-year senior, and it's just basically a enrollment to reflect their graduation, then they should have a status record with exam indicator.
I think in any scenario, the exemption is appropriate, Kyron, because given the dates, they graduated in the summertime, so they never did have a 24-25 enrollment. So the exemption indicator is fine. And Terry, Kyron saying enrollment for one day because our guidance is for school graduates, you would enroll them for one day if you didn't leave the enrollment open from the previous year. So if you exit all of them in the end of year last year, to denote that enrollment with the E131, the E230-100, it would be a single day enrollment.
All right. Thank you, Nate, and thank you, Kyron. Next, we have a Q1 from Micah or Mika at 305. I thought students cannot be suspended for willful defiance for high school students. Where can I find documentation indicating this so I can provide it to the assistant principal?
Any ideas? Oh, there we go.
Oh, Amber posted the law that's in effect, SB 274.
If that's true, we need to update our FAQs because it says TK through 8 can't be suspended for willful defiance.
Yeah, we'll look that up. I know it was K8. I wasn't knowing of it being updated to high school, but we'll look at that.
All right. So Amber was helpful in providing the Senate bill in the Q&A box there, and we'll be kind of looking into it on the CDE and CSIS side.
Yeah, Mika, why don't you go ahead and put a ticket and ask for me, and I'll keep an eye on that one for you.
All right. And thank you, Mika, for the question there. Next, we have a Q1 from Johanna at 309. Now that we only have the option to use the CCAP to report college courses and we cannot report singleton college courses, will the CCI indicator on the California School Dashboard be negatively impacted for all schools since technically fewer college courses will be reported this year?
This is Paula. I don't know if even our dashboard folks could answer that, but you might submit a question to their inbox, which I know someone at CSIS probably has that email box, but that's definitely a question for our accountability folks.
Looks like Gary's
I'm
getting us
trying
there
to
in
get
chat.
to it.
I should know
See.
it off the top of my head, but I don't.
Is this one
There.
here?
Yeah.
Dashboard at cde.ca.gov.
All right. So Johanna, please send that question to dashboard at cde.ca.gov.
Can you pop that in the chat, Gary?
Sure.
All right. Next, we have a Q1 from David at 309. Will there be a CalPADS flash related to the universal benefit application and Sunbucks? If so, when will it be released? Thank you.
Be careful what you ask for, David.
I'll respond, but Diana actually could respond to this one too. It's in the final process, final steps of getting out there. So hopefully early next week or next week sometime, but it's very, very close. In the meantime, if folks have some general questions, feel free to ask them and I could try to answer them.
We'll also be covering that next week at the regional meetings.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Paula, and thank you, Angela, and thank you, David, for the question. Next, we have a Q1 from Soraya at 309. Our schools may offer CTE pathway courses for the first time next year. Can you please suggest best resources to acclimate our team with the reporting requirements?
I'm going to put some links on the chat,
Oh,
but
thanks,
that would
Kyron.
put it away. That would kick her out of the active window. So just look at the your answer in the hidden answer section.
So Kyron has developed the CalPADS user manual and has some pages in there that should be helpful for you, Soraya. So please do look in chat for those links. All right. Thank you, Kyron and Soraya. Next, we have a Q1 from Wendy at 311. We just enrolled a new student for whom I've discovered has 2 SSIDs. One SSID has an incorrect birth year. Do I pick the older record to get her enrolled, then request that the SSIDs be combined, or is there a better way to process this? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I understand your question, Wendy, before I answer. I think you haven't chosen the SSID yet. You're just seeing that the student has 2. That's what it sounds like. So in that case, yes, pick the oldest one, and then it's not going to be discovered as a mid because the birth years are wrong. So you can use the combine mids not on report function to merge those 2.
All right. Thank you, Angela, and thank you, Wendy, for the question. Next, we have a Q1 from Chris at 312. Another LEA wants to merge a mid. The student was with them for 1 week 9 years ago, and they assigned them an EL record. Before they merge, they are requesting that I delete my LEA's EL record so this won't look odd. Is deleting our EL record prior to the merge recommended?
You probably can't delete it if it's before 2020, or if it's after 2020. I don't think the system's going to let you delete it. So they should just go ahead and merge, and then if they need help, we can put in a ticket and we can assist on the back end here.
All right. Thank you, Angela, and thank you, Chris, for the question. Next, we have a Q1 from Anne at 318. I attended the CDE webinar on attendance recovery this morning, and they said we would have to report it to CalPADS for the next school year if we implement it in our LEA. It sounds pretty involved. When would the CalPADS file specs be updated with the new requirements, and will there be documentation or training on how to report it?
Do you guys want to answer this, or do you want me to?
You can start. Matt can probably address the training piece.
Okay. Right. So actually, the CalPADS piece is pretty straightforward. I think the more involved piece is the ADA reporting, which is not CalPADS reporting, but the file specs have been developed and they have been vetted with the student information system vendors, so they know what to expect. We have not put out a flash yet, but we will very shortly because we were kind of waiting for the landing page of the attendance recovery program to be alive, which I believe it just went live yesterday, maybe. So in terms of CalPADS, what it's going to be is on the student absence summary file, the STAS file, there will be a new field added that's simply total attendance recovery days, in which if the student earned any such days, that they would report that number in that field. There will be a validation limiting it to 10 or the number of absences a student had, whichever is less. I think all that was kind of covered in the webinar, but all those specifics are already available. I think we're in the process of updating the file specs as for this coming year, for the next school year, basically, but that's all been done and the vendors have it, and we'll be putting out a flash shortly.
All right. And that addresses the documentation side of things too. So on the training side of things, we will be incorporating this into the end of year 3 reporting and certification training and into our end of year primer, because that is the data submission where the STAS file, the student absence summary file, is submitted to CalPADS. So we'll be incorporating it into our existing trainings and releasing it in the updated versions of documentation. All right. Thank you, Paula, and thank you, Anne, for the question. Next, we're going to scroll up to Q2 from Terry at 310. Question regarding the Sync 701E3 error. We have students with IEPs who have a removal to interim alternative setting code and participation in an alternative to suspension or ATS program. And the ATS is at another campus. Currently, we're translating the ATS program to CalPads as 300 other means of correction. Should we be translating this program differently? If it needs to be coded as a suspension, would it be considered an out-of-school suspension since the students are attending a different school location within our district? And if we were to change ATS to translate as an out-of-school suspension, what would be the appropriate attendance code? And then Clarissa clarifies in a comment, specifically, this program takes place at another campus than the student's home school in most cases.
Do we need a ticket on this one?
Yeah, I've never heard of this particular scenario. So a ticket probably would be the best thing, and we can take it back to our discipline and sped folks.
Right. Thank you for the question, Terry. Please do go ahead and submit a ticket. Let's go ahead and move on to Q1 from Shauna at 321. Does the attendance update include the ELOP programs?
I'm not sure what the attendance update is referring to. There is lots of confusion because we have two kind of new programs for next year. One is attendance recovery, which is one program where in CalPads we're simply collecting the number of attendance recovery days that meet the attendance recovery requirements, and we're collecting that in the stats the stats file. There's another collection that we will also be communicating about called the Expanded Learning Program Collection. That was based on legislation AB 1113, which requires us to collect students who are registered and participate in any of the expanded learning programs, which includes the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, or ELOP, the After School Safety Education Program, ACES, or one of the federal 21st Century Learning Center programs. So that collection will be based on a new program code called Expanded Learning Program, and LEAs will be required to submit a program record for any student who is registered for any of those programs. Then there will be a new field in the student SPRG, the student program file, that will simply ask for the number of days a student attended. So there will be more information coming out about that. We've had many discussions already with the student information system vendors, and they have seen the mock-ups of the documentation in terms of the CFS and the code set and validations and so forth. So that's been pretty much finalized, and the student information system vendors have had that. We've also had some meetings with the vendors who, in some schools or districts, provide software for attendance in these after-school programs. We've also met with them, so they have an idea as to what they need to provide their school districts, or their student information system vendors at the school districts, in order to submit what they need to do CalPads. So I don't know if that, I might have not been answering your question, but there's lots of confusion between expanded learning programs and attendance recovery. And I know today in the summit webinar for attendance recovery, there was discussion about how you can kind of integrate attendance recovery programs and expanded learning programs.
And Shauna responds, that's exactly what I needed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would like to reiterate that. Thank you so much, Paula. And that brings us to the end of the questions in the Q&A box. I'm going to go ahead and vie for some time as you guys populate any remaining questions that you have in there. We do have until 4 o'clock to answer any questions that you may have for CSIS or the CDE CalPads folks. Nothing coming in yet. I thought we would make it till 3:30 on deadline week. Okay, we got a Q1 from Natasha, 327. Will we need to report teachers or courses for ELOP or attendance recovery?
Not in CalPads, no.
Right.
We really got lucky with Paula being here today.
Yeah, that was perfect timing, Paula.
Perfect timing.
Maybe she
I
knew
would-
there was going to be
There's
attendance
a lot of
recovery.
new stuff starting to get out there, and so we know that causes folks concern.
All right. And we did get another Q1 from Lethea at 327. Is ELOP only for K through 6, or does it also apply to high schools?
I believe it also applies to high school. I know one of the 21st century learning programs specifically applies to high school, but ELOP is the entitlement program that all LEAs get funding for based on they're eligible. Basically, they get money mostly for students who are kind of your UPC students. And so it's an entitlement program. So most LEAs are getting that funding, and they can, I believe, provide ELOP to, whatever students they feel need it. But you might look up on our CD website, just Google ELOP to find out the specifics about that particular program. Currently, there is no data collection on ELOP, and that's actually the reason for AB 1113 is there's a lot of money that goes for ELOP, but the state really doesn't have a great idea as to how many students participate.
All right. Thank you, Paula. And thank you, Lethea, for the question. Next, we have a Q1 from Ethan at 327. Maybe this has always been the case and I missed it. Is it correct that a student with disabilities does not need a census date class enrollment? They won't trigger the SENR 693 F2. This is typically when I ask Dominic for a response.
It's a correct statement. I don't know how long that has been the case, but it's true as of this fall too, that students with disabilities enrolled at the district office don't have to have a course enrollment.
Thank you, Angela, and thank you, Ethan, for the question. Next, we have an implicit Q1 from Carol at 328. Can you please point in the data guide how to populate third-party SPED services vendors for fall 2?
Not sure I understand that question.
I was going to say.
Yeah, there is a SPED data guide coming out. It's not there yet, I don't believe. But maybe you could clarify, Carol, what you were trying to ask there.
She says email notification from a CalPad service desk, and she has it's like a ticket number.
Looks like Sean responded. So are you needing more based on what Sean responded yesterday, Carol?
Yes.
I believe she is away from her desk today, but I will grab it and see if we can get some more info for you. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Angela. So Carol, please do look for follow-up responses in that ticket. Next, we have a Q1 from Rebecca at 330. Our second LEA admin retired. do I submit a request to CSIS? If so, how long does the change take? I did try today from the CSIS Contact Us site and received an email as it had failed. So do I follow up with a ticket to CalPads? And yes,
Yeah.
please do submit a ticket to the CalPads service desk, letting us know that one, which LEA admin retired, and then if they have a successor in place already or at this point, please let us know who will additionally need CalPads access and permissions.
When they submit the ticket, do they put in the subject new LE admin,
Yes.
something like that? Yeah.
Yes, please do put in the subject of the ticket, new LEA admin. All right, thank you for the question, Rebecca. We did make it past 3:30 this time, but we have reached the end of the questions again. So I'll continue to try to vie for some time for you guys as you populate your remaining questions in the chat here. All right, we have a Q1 from Divya at 3:32. In our charter school, most of the high school courses are taken in community college. If a student completes a series of 6 welding courses in a community college, would that count towards a CTE pathway? So
I think
on the
oh, go ahead.
On the face of it, no. So a CTE course needs to be developed with specific CTE standards in mind, and those are typically not standards that college courses are developed with because CTE courses are primarily a high school 9 through 12 course. Paula, did you want to add to that?
No, that's exactly
Okay.
right. And if they want more assistance, then maybe see if they can become a CTE course. I don't even know if that's possible. You should reach out to our CTE office.
All right. Thank you, Paula, and thank you, Divya, for the question. All right, we've got a Q3 from Terry at 3:34. How do you submit courses for students that come from another country? There used to be an old state course code that was generic to a subject area, but they are no longer valid.
Is there a difference?
Yeah, you should only be reporting the courses that they're taking at your district.
Got other folks reiterating that response in chat as well.
Okay, I thought maybe I misread the question, but
All right,
okay.
and Terry says thank you. So I think that's a good response there. Let's move on to a Q1 from Linda at 3:34. I was late, so forgive me if you answered this already. In my Aries listserv, someone shared the program code for ELOP is 194. Is that correct?
That is correct, but it won't be valid until the school year rollover. So you're ahead of the game.
We are so lucky to have you on the call today, Paula. Thank you so much. And thank you, Linda, for the question. Next, we've got a question from Stephanie at 3:34. What state course code do we use? In parentheses, we have 7531 Advanced Education CTE Capstone or 7227 College Credit Course Other for an education pathway capstone course, which is also a dual enrollment course taught by a local community college instructor. So you would code it with the course code for the CTE state course code, but there is an instruction, I believe the field is instruction type code, where you could indicate with either a code 23 or a 24 that it's dual credit or college credit only. So you would, it looks like for this scenario, you would report it with the state course code for the CTE capstone course, but indicate with a code 23 or 24 that it is additionally a college credit course. Oh no, Rebecca Morales, are we losing you from the Q&A calls?
Maybe.
You can't leave us. We'll miss you too much.
She's going to be doing SPED data, so she may be on for EOA 3 and 4, or we're also on the SPED calls, so we may see her there.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we still get to see you. All right, I'm not seeing more questions populate in the Q&A box. Angela, what do you think?
Let's give it a few minutes because we just had about 6 people just join.
Okay, and one just popped in. So let me go ahead and read Carol's Q3 here. How would we report employment start date, years of service, etc., when they are not our employee? So you only report certificated employees employed by your district during fall 2. If they are not employed by your LEA, you would not report them to CalPADS.
I would disagree with that. If they serve with your LEA in some contract capacity and are not specifically your employee, they're teaching students, they're a teacher of record, you would still report them if you have this information. The question is, how do you get the information? So if they're with the county, perhaps you can request it. Maybe there's some agreement. But specifically, if they're a teacher of record, we do suggest you report them, even if they're not an employee. And there's a FAQ that says as much, but if you don't have the information, then you have to report the course record with the generic seed.
Yeah, and we do really would love folks to not use the 9999s because we can't do anything with that information, but we understand that it's hard sometimes to get the information that's needed. So yeah.
And we're talking about reporting in course section records.
Yes, we would want the instruction. So Matt's pointing out the generic seed allows you to report the course the teacher's delivering. You wouldn't be able to report that staff member without the seed and demographic information. Thanks, Matt.
And that's where the employment start date and years of service and everything becomes relevant. So I do think that's relevant there, but thank you for the follow-up, Nate. I think that was kind of a valuable addition there. And thank you for the question, Carol. They are pupil services, not a course. So it would only be pupil services are only reported with staff assignment and staff demographic records. They're not reported with course section records. So if they're not employed by your LEA, Nate, do you believe they should still be reported to CalPADS?
No, not at all. I think there was a FAQ for that. I'll see if I could pull it up that was specifically addressed administrators and pupil services.
All right. Thank you so much, Nate, Paula, and Carol for the question there. And we got a thanks in the Q&A and a thanks in the chat box for Nate. So a lot of kudos for you today.
I'm still super green.
It seems like we always are because this CalPADS never change is always changing.
That's quotable. We need that on a t-shirt, Gary.
Feel like we've changed how to report teachers on leave. Every year we flip flop it back,
Yeah, I
right?
know.
Like report it, don't report it. Report FTE, don't report FTE. I do think, Nate, that FAQ, even the one for the teacher of record, probably could be a little bit clearer about reporting the demographics for that teacher that's contracted. It just kind of talks about, well, yeah, report them if they're the teacher of record, even though they're contracted, but it doesn't go into the nuts and bolts of what that looks like.
Yeah, I think we haven't updated really how to report staff members on leave since we went to assignment monitoring, and the urgency to report the teacher of record has changed it all. So I do think
We have updated that one, yeah. recently, the teacher on leave, when that flash came out, I believe Sean got the FAQ updated as well. So it was, I think, in February that they did that.
All right, we have a Q1 from Therese. Can we have 1 year with no changes?
Singing my song, Charisse.
I like Chris's comment though. That would be change.
That
1
would
year
be a
with no
change.
changes would be change.
Right. Just allowing you guys a little bit more time to populate some remaining questions.
Okay, I wanted to give those folks that joined late an opportunity to ask questions, but if they're quiet, I think we could give people 15 minutes back.
All right. Sounds good to me as well. So thank you everyone for attending the session today. We will be back next Wednesday, same time, same place for the CalPADS Q&A. Good luck certifying by Friday's deadline. I believe in you all. Please reach out if you need any assistance.
Good
Thank you,
job, guys.
Paula and Diana, for joining. That was a nice treat.
Thanks, you guys.
Most
You guys always
Come
amaze me.
anytime.
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, guys, I got it from here.
Thanks,
All
Marshall.
right. See you
No
guys later.
problem.
Bye.
Bye.